In a picturesque coastal town nestled against the backdrop of a vibrant harbor lives Memo, a kindly but mentally challenged man who shares a deep bond with his beloved daughter, Ova. Despite his intellectual disability, Memo's world is rich with love and simplicity, centered around Ova and his adoring grandmother, who both cherish him dearly. Memo works as a shepherd on the outskirts of town, where the lush hills meet the sea. His days are filled with the gentle rhythms of rural life, herding sheep and basking in the natural beauty of his surroundings. Ova, a bright and inquisitive child, attends the local school and is often seen rushing into her father's arms at the end of each day, their joyful reunion a familiar sight to the townsfolk. The townspeople generally regard Memo with a mix of affection and pity, appreciating his harmless demeanor, but sometimes mocking his simplicity. Nonetheless, Memo is content, finding joy in the small moments and the beauty of his scenic world. As the town prepares for its annual festival, an event that brings together the close-knit community with games, music, and shared festivities, Memo and Ova look forward to participating in the joyous occasion. Unbeknownst to them, this festival will soon become a pivotal moment in their lives, as their simple existence is shattered by a sudden and tragic incident. During the festival, the coastal town bursts into vibrant life, its streets adorned with colorful decorations and filled with the laughter of children. As the local brass band plays jubilantly, Memo and Ova, hand in hand, join the throng of townspeople celebrating. Ova is captivated by the performers and the festive games, her eyes sparkling with excitement. At the heart of the festival is a small, makeshift playground where children clamor around a merry-go-round and a slide, the latter being the center of attention for the younger ones. Memo watches over Ova with a protective gaze, his love palpable as he encourages her to join the fun. Tragedy strikes when the commander's daughter, a petite girl with golden curls, climbs the slide. Unknown to the others, the slide structure has been compromised, weakened by time and neglect. As she reaches the top, the slide collapses, sending her tumbling to the ground in a heap. The impact is severe, and she lies motionless, causing immediate panic among the festival goers. In the ensuing chaos, Memo's instinct to help propels him forward. His large frame moves clumsily through the crowd as he rushes to the girl's side, driven by a pure desire to comfort and assist her. However, his approach, filled with urgency and distress, is misinterpreted by the onlookers. As he attempts to lift the injured child, his actions are not seen as those of a concerned bystander, but as a threat. Shouts erupt from the crowd, with people misunderstanding his intentions, interpreting his intervention as harmful. The girl's father, seeing Memo holding his daughter, reacts with fury and despair. Accusations fly, and within moments, Memo is roughly pulled away by the authorities as the crowd's fear and confusion spiral into anger. In the immediate aftermath of the incident, Memo is swiftly taken into custody, his protest drowned out by the chaotic clamor of the festival crowd. Misunderstanding and fear paint him as a perpetrator in the eyes of the community, a stark contrast to the gentle father and friend they knew. As he is led away by the police, his bewildered expression and tearful pleas only add to the heartbreak of the situation. The local media quickly seize on the story, framing it as a shocking act of violence at a public celebration. "Local man arrested for assaulting child at festival," headlines scream, casting a shadow over Memo's reputation. The speed with which the news spreads fuels a wildfire of gossip and speculation throughout the town. Ova, left in the care of her grandmother, is devastated. Her confusion and fear mirror that of her father, as she cannot comprehend why her loving father has been taken away. Her grandmother, equally distressed, tries to shield her from the worst of the rumors, but the whispering in the streets is persistent and cruel. The community's reaction is divided. Some, who had always viewed Memo with suspicion due to his disability, find the accusations easy to believe and distance themselves further. However, others, who knew of Memo's kind nature and his deep bond with Ova, are torn. They struggle with the conflicting images of Memo as a caring father and the accused assailant. Amid this turmoil, a few voices call for calm and urge the townsfolk to wait for the full story before passing judgment. They remember Memo's gentle spirit and cannot reconcile it with the actions he is accused of. Yet as the days pass, these voices are often drowned out by the growing clamor for justice, with the commander's influential position casting a long shadow over the proceedings. Inside the cold, stark walls of the prison, Memo finds himself in a world utterly alien to the gentle hills and open skies of his hometown. The initial shock of incarceration is overwhelming, his inability to fully grasp the legal complexities of his situation only deepening his despair. His days are marked by the monotonous routine of prison life, which he navigates with confusion and a profound sense of isolation. Memo's fellow inmates, initially suspicious and wary of his behavior, soon begin to notice his childlike innocence and genuine kindness. Even in such harsh conditions, Memo's inherent goodness shines through. His simple acts of sharing his meager provisions and trying to smile despite his sadness slowly win over some of the hardened prisoners. They start to protect him, helping him understand the unspoken rules that govern their grim environment. One inmate in particular, a former teacher who recognizes the injustice in Memo's eyes, becomes his unofficial advocate within the walls. This inmate takes it upon himself to explain to Memo the details of his situation, using simple terms and drawings to make the complex legal process more understandable for him. Meanwhile, Memo clings to memories of Ova, keeping her drawings close to his heart, tucked away in his uniform. These worn pieces of paper are his lifeline, a reminder of the world outside and the daughter waiting for him. At night, he whispers stories to himself, recounting the tales he used to tell Ova, imagining that she can hear him. Despite the bleakness of his situation, Memo's spirit remains unbroken, fueled by the hope of reuniting with his daughter. His resilience and the small kindnesses he shows to others do not go unnoticed by the prison staff, some of whom begin to question the narrative that led to his imprisonment. As word of Memo's situation spreads beyond the prison walls, it catches the attention of a young, determined lawyer named Selma. Intrigued by the inconsistencies and driven by a deep belief in justice, Selma decides to take on Memo's case pro bono. Her background in human rights laws and her compassion for those wronged by the system make her an ideal advocate for Memo. Selma begins by visiting Memo in prison, where she quickly realizes the depth of his vulnerability and the potential miscarriage of justice. Their meetings are poignant as Selma uses dolls and simple drawings to explain the legal process to Memo, ensuring he understands that she is fighting for him. Memo, for his part, expresses his confusion and fear, but also shows a glimmer of hope now that he has someone in his corner. Back in town, Selma conducts a thorough investigation into the festival day's events. She interviews witnesses, revisits the scene, and examines the medical reports of the commander's daughter. Through her diligent work, Selma uncovers evidence that the playground equipment had been faulty for months, a fact overlooked in the initial rush to judgment against Memo. Armed with this new information, Selma approaches experts in child psychology and intellectual disabilities to testify about Memo's behavioral patterns and how unlikely it is for someone with his cognitive limitations to commit such a deliberate act of harm. These experts agree to help, drawn by Selma's passion and Memo's evident innocence. Simultaneously, Selma works to shift public opinion. She engages with local media, providing them with factual updates and highlighting the human aspect of Memo's story, focusing on his role as a loving father and a man wrongfully accused. As the date for the appeal approaches, the town begins to buzz with renewed interest and speculation. Some residents, moved by Selma's efforts and the emerging facts, start to question their initial judgments. The atmosphere in the courtroom on the day of Memo's appeal is tense, charged with anticipation. The small courtroom is packed, with residents who have followed the case closely, media representatives eager to cover the developments, and a few human rights activists drawn by the case's implications. As the trial commences, Selma confidently presents her case, methodically dismantling the prosecution's arguments with precision and clarity. She begins by addressing the faulty playground equipment, preventing evidence that the local council had been notified of the potential danger months before the incident, but had failed to act. This shifts some blame away from Memo, framing the tragedy as an accident waiting to happen. Selma then calls on experts in intellectual disabilities to the stand. They testify about Memo's condition, explaining how his actions at the festival were consistent with his protective and caring nature rather than any malicious intent. They discuss how people with Memo's cognitive profile are more likely to misinterpret stressful situations and react inappropriately out of confusion, not aggression. To humanize Memo further, Selma presents videos and testimonials from neighbors and friends, depicting Memo as a doting father and a gentle soul. Ova, now slightly older and more articulate, gives a moving testimony about her father, speaking to his character and their loving relationship. Her words resonate deeply with everyone in the room, leaving few eyes dry. Throughout the trial, Memo sits quietly, his confusion palpable, but his trust in Selma clear. He clutches a small toy that Ova gave him, a symbol of her presence and a talisman against his fears. Every so often, he glances at Selma, and each time she meets his gaze with a reassuring smile, reinforcing her commitment to his cause. The prosecutor tries to counter, emphasizing the severity of the incident and the initial witness reports. However, their arguments seem to falter against the weight of expert testimonies and the emotional impact of Ova's words. As the trial concludes, the judge takes a moment to review the notes, the room filled with a heavy silence. Finally, the judge addresses the court, commending the defense for presenting a compelling reevaluation of the facts and highlighting the importance of understanding and compassion in dealing with individuals with disabilities. The courtroom holds its breath as the judge prepares to deliver the verdict. The tension is palpable, with everyone from townsfolk to media representatives leaning forward in their seats, awaiting the decision that will determine Memo's fate. The judge begins by acknowledging the complexity of the case and the emotional weight it carries for everyone involved. He commends the defense for its thorough investigation and presentation, which brought new facts to light and highlighted significant oversights in the initial handling of the incident. Turning his attention to the jury, the judge reads the verdict: not guilty. The words resonate through the courtroom, sparking a mixture of relief and jubilation among Memo's supporters. Selma, her face alight with satisfaction and relief, turns to Memo, who looks back with a mixture of disbelief and dawning happiness. His eyes fill with tears as the reality of his freedom sinks in. The judge further states that the case has highlighted the need for better awareness and handling of individuals with intellectual disabilities within the justice system. He suggests that local authorities take measures to ensure such misunderstandings and injustices do not happen in the future. As the courtroom empties, the media rush to cover the victorious outcome, interviewing Selma and some of the townsfolk who had supported Memo. The story quickly spreads, becoming a beacon of hope for advocates of justice reform, especially concerning how the legal system interacts with vulnerable populations. Memo and Ova share an emotional reunion outside the courthouse. Ova rushes into her father's arms, no longer the little girl she was when they were separated. They hold each other tightly, their bond unbroken by the ordeal they endured. Following the emotional high of the trial, Memo and Ova begin to rebuild their lives. With Memo's innocence publicly affirmed, they are welcomed back into the community with new respect and warmth. The wrongful accusation that once cast a long shadow over their lives is replaced by a community's collective desire to right the wrongs done to them. Memo returns to his job as a shepherd, where the rolling hills and open sky welcome him back like an old friend. The simple joys of nature, which had always soothed his soul, now hold even deeper meaning. He takes every opportunity to teach Ova about the land, passing on his knowledge and love for their home environment. Ova, matured beyond her years by the ordeal, returns to school with a new sense of purpose. She finds herself drawn to subjects that speak of justice and social change, inspired by Selma's advocacy and the outpouring community support they received. Her teachers and classmates, aware of her story, support her ambitions with encouragement and admiration. Selma remains a close family friend, visiting often. She uses their case as a cornerstone in her ongoing work to advocate for legal reforms, particularly those affecting people with disabilities. Memo's story becomes a case study in her presentation and papers, contributing to a broader discussion on national reforms. In the years that follow, the town holds annual community forums on justice and inclusion, inspired by Memo's story. These forums become a local tradition, fostering a spirit of unity and understanding among the residents. As for Memo and Ova, they find peace in their quiet life, enriched by the love they share in the community that now stands firmly behind them. Their story, a testament to resilience and the power of human connection, continues to inspire those who hear it, reminding all of the enduring power of love and justice.